What if I told you that your last 2,000-word blog post, the one that's just sitting dead on your website right now, basically gathering digital dust, what if I told you it actually contains the exact DNA for 10 viral videos?
Yeah, and a high-converting podcast.
Right. And an entire month's worth of targeted social content. I mean, you just haven't unlocked it yet.
It's honestly the ultimate blind spot for anyone making things online today. I mean, if you were sitting there right now just staring at a blank screen, trying to figure out what to post next to feed the algorithm.
The endless content beast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are playing the game on hard mode. You really don't need to generate a brand new idea from scratch every single day. The strategy we are exploring today is about taking one foundational piece of thought leadership and, well, building a fully automated, AI-driven ecosystem around it.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are breaking down the source material today, which is an article called The AI Playbook for Scaling Video Content Through Repurposing. But let's be super clear up front. We are not talking about some cheap copy-paste hack here.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like where you just dump your text into a generator and get this, I don't know, robotic voice reading your paragraphs over stock footage of a guy shaking hands.
Yeah, that is how you destroy a brand, not build one. This is a highly strategic approach. It's really about broadening your audience reach and diversifying your messaging in a way that actually positions you as an authority.
Right, maximizing output without sacrificing the quality.
Exactly. You aren't just making more noise, you are making smarter, more targeted noise that's tailored to how different human brains actually prefer to learn.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, I mean, if you can't just slap a massive article into an AI video generator, where do we actually start? How do we crack open that huge 2,000-word post?
Well, you have to start with deconstruction.
Deconstruction.
Right. Before you even open a single AI editing tool, you have to isolate the raw materials. Think about what a blog post actually is at its core. It's this really dense web of main arguments, supporting evidence.
Statistics, things like
Yeah, stats, actionable takeaways. You cannot just read that on camera. You have to distill it down to its absolute core components first.
It's like taking a whole roasted chicken and figuring out how to make a soup, a salad, and sandwiches out of it.
I love that.
You have to carve it up first, right? You separate the meat from the bone.
That is a perfect analogy because the bones of a blog post, like the long transitional paragraphs, those really dense introductions, those just do not translate to video.
They're too boring.
Way too boring. You are hunting for the meat. You are actively extracting the specific, hard-hitting statistics, the really impactful quotes, and the vivid real-world examples.
Why those specifically?
Because those are the specific elements that an AI can later visually represent or narrate in a highly compelling way.
Right, so you're basically looking for the hooks, the pieces that actually make someone stop scrolling on their phone.
Precisely. And so once you've carved up those insights, the next step is transforming that extracted text into engaging scripts. But this is where the translation from a written medium to a spoken medium really happens.
Because writing for the eye is different than writing for the ear.
Completely different. You have to introduce a narrative flow and develop a much more relatable voice. You are basically engineering the script to include rhetorical devices, anecdotes, humor, maybe some thought-provoking questions.
Wait, hold on, though. Let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If we are using AI to help generate these scripts and we're telling it to add, visual cues, isn't the AI just guessing based on standard formulas? How do we keep it from just sounding like a super dry academic lecture or a generic corporate explainer?
That is the exact trap most people fall into, and it's why you don't just ask the AI to simply write a script.
What do you do instead?
You use prompt injection directly within the script formatting.
Prompt injection.
Yeah. You don't just write the spoken dialogue. You write bracketed instructions. So, for example, you might type something like bracket, AI prompt ET, generate B-roll of a ticking clock, zoom in slowly, end bracket.
Oh, wow.
You are literally coding the video through the script itself.
So you are essentially writing a programming language for the video editor, but just using plain English.
Exactly. You are guiding the production process manually where it actually matters. By writing down specifically where a visual should appear alongside the spoken word, you ensure this strategic alignment.
The AI isn't just randomly guessing anymore.
No, it's executing your specific creative direction. And this reinforces your key messages through repetition and varied presentation styles, which ultimately enhances the viewer's comprehension.
Which naturally brings us to the actual production engine.
Yeah.
Because we've carved the chicken, we've coded our recipes, and now we're turning on the heavy machinery.
Yeah, this is where the workflow completely transforms.
Wow.
We are talking about utilizing machine learning algorithms for all the heavy lifting.
Automated video editing.
Right. Automated video editing, dynamic scene selection, generating voiceovers, and adding visual enhancements.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the underlying mechanics of how the AI does this are, they're wild. It doesn't just randomly pick pictures that match your words.
No, it relies heavily on natural language processing, NLP.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. So the AI scans your coded script and analyzes the contextual weight of the words. It actually detects high emotion keywords or shifts in tone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then it pairs those specific moments with high contrast visuals or appropriate B-roll. It's actively looking for the semantic meaning behind your text to suggest the most impactful imagery and layouts.
So the AI is acting as a highly technical assistant. It's doing all that tedious work of digging through massive stock libraries and matching the pacing, which honestly completely shifts the role of the actual human creator.
That is the crucial takeaway here. When the AI handles the technical execution, the cutting, the syncing, the color grading, the creator is freed up to focus purely on refining their vision.
You aren't stuck in the weeds anymore.
Exactly. You are no longer a video editor spending 6 hours manually slicing clips on a timeline. You become a creative director. You are stepping back and saying, does this hit the emotional note I wanted?
And speaking of hitting the right notes, let's talk about how this applies to social media. Because we all know short clips are basically the lifeblood of the internet right now. We don't need to explain why people watch them.
Yeah.
But what I really want to know is how the AI actually pulls a viral moment out of, say, a 10-minute script.
What's fascinating here is how the AI defines a moment. Because the AI isn't just mindlessly chopping your video into uniform 70-second chunks.
Like just cutting it every 30 seconds regardless of what's happening.
Right, it doesn't do that. It actively scans the transcript and the audio waveform for what we call spike moments.
Spike moments.
Yes. A spike moment could be a controversial statement or a sudden drop of a surprising statistic. It could even be a shift in the speaker's vocal pitch that indicates high energy.
That's incredible.
It is. The machine learning model has been trained on millions of hours of successful social media content. So it inherently knows what auditory and textual patterns tend to hold human attention.
So it finds those spikes and clips them.
It finds them, clicks them, and then uses auto-framing technology to keep the speaker's face dead center for vertical mobile viewing, even if they were moving around a lot in the original wide shot.
So it tracks the face, adds the captions, bakes in the visual hooks. Wait, you mentioned it's trained on successful content. Does that mean it can actually predict what will go viral?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not so much about predicting the future. It's about highly calculated probabilities. This is a fundamentally data-driven approach.
Okay.
The AI integrates platform-specific metrics. It analyzes current viewer engagement patterns, user interactions, and trending topics on the specific platform you are targeting at that moment.
So it knows this, say, TikTok audiences might want a much faster cut with more aggressive text on screen, while a LinkedIn audience might need a slightly more measured pace with a clear, professional call to action.
Precisely. It guides the creation of these clips to align perfectly with what the algorithm is currently prioritizing. You are essentially engineering serendipity.
Engineering serendipity, I like that.
Yeah, you are taking your foundational thought and wrapping it in the exact structural packaging that the platform's algorithm has already decided it likes.
That is incredibly powerful. But as we look at this broader multimedia strategy from the text, it becomes obvious that we aren't just making different lengths of video, right? We are actually translating the core message to cater to completely different cognitive needs.
Exactly. Because a single comprehensive blog post contains multiple types of information, and human brains process different types of information in drastically different ways.
Give us an example.
Take a how-to section of your blog, for example. Reading a complex methodology or a step-by-step technical guide can be incredibly dry, and quite frankly, it imposes a really high cognitive load on the reader.
Oh, totally. You read step 4 and immediately forget step 2.
Right, which is exactly why translating those specific sections into dynamic visual tutorials is so incredibly effective. The AI can take those written instructions and generate on-screen text, combine it with voice narration, and pull specific visual demonstrations.
So it's hitting you from multiple angles.
Yes, you are leveraging dual coding theory. You're hitting the viewer with audio and visual information simultaneously, which significantly reduces friction and enhances their ability to actually learn and retain the subject.
So visual tutorials solve the problem of complex instructions. But what about the emotional side of things? The strategy heavily leans into audio formats, specifically developing a podcast from the original text, which I have to say is a pretty funny layer of inception for us right now.
It really is.
I mean, we are sitting here using a conversational audio format to break down a strategy that recommends turning written text into conversational audio format.
It is very meta, but there is a profound psychological reason for it. Audio does something that text and even highly edited video really struggle to do. It builds immediate, intimate trust.
Because it's literally in your ear.
Exactly. When you transform an article into a conversational narrative, you allow all those emotional nuances to shine through. Text is flat. But the micro-expressions in a human voice, the slight pauses, the enthusiasm, the tone, those build a parasocial relationship.
It feels like you actually know the person.
Yes, a podcast makes the content feel less like a lecture and much more like a shared discovery. It makes the underlying ideas of your original blog post deeply memorable.
So audio hooks them emotionally and builds that trust. But eventually, you're going to hit a wall of hard data. If my blog post has a massive section breaking down industry trends with percentages and year-over-year growth, emotion isn't going to help the listener understand a spreadsheet.
Which is exactly why the AI strategy flips its approach entirely at that point. When it encounters hard data, it shifts from emotional audio to pure visual comprehension.
Okay, how so?
This is where the AI acts as an engine for cognitive translation by generating infographics.
Cognitive translation, that's a great way to put it.
It's the best way to describe it, honestly. The AI understands that reading a dense paragraph about, say, a 400% increase across 3 demographics is incredibly taxing for the brain to try and visualize.
It's just a wall of numbers.
Exactly. But translating that exact same data into a sleek pie chart or a color-coded bar graph, that makes the insight instantaneous.
It takes all the friction out of the data. The colors, the icons, the layouts, they actively guide the eye to the conclusion you want them to reach.
And just as importantly, infographics serve as highly shareable, top-of-funnel content. I mean, someone might not share a dense 2,000-word article on their feed, but they will absolutely share a striking visual chart that makes them look smart to their peers.
And that chart drives traffic right back to your original piece.
Exactly.
Okay, so up until this point, this entire ecosystem has been a one-way street. We've taken the blog post, we've carved it up, we've coded the scripts, and we've broadcasted it out as tutorials, shorts, podcasts, and infographics. But the strategy doesn't stop at broadcasting. The real genius here is how we use the audience's reaction to fuel the machine all over again.
Yes. This raises a super important question. How do you ensure your content ecosystem doesn't just run out of steam? You have to close the loop. And the way you do that is by harvesting the community's feedback.
The comments section.
Exactly, the comments. When you post all these different formats, people are inevitably going to ask questions. They will ask for clarification on a tutorial or maybe debate a point you made in a short clip. Instead of just typing out a quick reply, you use those comments as raw material.
Oh, that's smart.
You gather the most common areas of confusion or high interest, and you feed those specific questions right back into your AI tools.
It's like you're using their comments as training data for your own personal algorithm.
That is exactly what it is. You prompt the AI to generate targeted Q&A scripts based directly on what your audience is actively asking for. You film specific video responses using visual aids to address those inquiries.
So you don't even have to come up with new ideas.
No, you are no longer guessing what your audience wants to know. They are literally handing you the outline for your next 10 videos.
It completely removes the guesswork from content creation. But there's another format mentioned in the source that really surprised me. The strategy highly recommends making content about making the content.
The behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah, the behind-the-scenes workflow. Why would a target audience care about the software I use or how messy my desk is? Don't they just want the polished, final infographic or the final video?
You would think so, but polished content can sometimes feel, well, sterile. It feels unattainable to a lot of people. Sharing the behind-the-scenes process, documenting the brainstorming, the messy scripting phase, the specific AI tools you are actually using to scale the worker, It does something vital. It shatters the corporate veneer and builds profound authenticity.
It proves there is an actual human pulling the levers behind the curtain.
Yes. And by highlighting the challenges you face and the triumphs of figuring out a new tool, you become relatable. Furthermore, it inherently positions you as an industry authority.
Because you're teaching them.
Exactly. You aren't just a talking head anymore. You are an educator pulling back the curtain for aspiring creators. You cultivate this supportive community ecosystem where viewers start sharing their own workflows and insights with you.
So what does this all mean for the long-term game? We started with a blog post. We exploded it into a dozen formats. We engaged the community. We answered their questions, and we showed them how we did it. Is that the end of the line for this specific campaign?
Not at all. It concludes with what we should call the optimization loop. You have to step back and critically evaluate the performance of the entire ecosystem.
Looking at the data again?
Always looking at the data. You look at the view counts, the retention graphs, the engagement rates. Which specific hook held attention the longest? Did the visual tutorial perform better than the emotional audio clip for this specific topic? Did the A/B test of the infographic thumbnail show a clear winner?
Right, because if the data shows that your audience aggressively swiped away during the statistical breakdown, but they watched the personal anecdote twice, you now know exactly how to structure the next original blog post you write.
Precisely. You use these concrete insights to refine your distribution channels and your promotional tactics. It's a continuous evolving loop. It ensures that every single time you publish a foundational piece of content, the automated ecosystem built around it becomes sharper, more engaging, and much more efficient.
You're just constantly leveling up.
Yeah, you maintain total relevance in an ever-evolving digital landscape.
Okay, let's take a breath and synthesize this entire journey for you listening right now. We started with one single static blog post, a piece of text. And by actively extracting the core hooks and utilizing AI prompt injection within our scripts, we coded a blueprint.
Right.
We use machine learning and natural language processing to automate the tedious editing and perfectly match our visuals. We pulled data-backed, high-retention spike moments to create viral social clips.
And we didn't stop there. We catered to entirely different cognitive needs. We captured deep emotional nuance with a conversational podcast. We performed cognitive translation, turning heavy data into frictionless, colorful infographics. We clarified complex methodologies with dynamic, dual-coded visual tutorials.
And then we close the loop. We use the community's own questions as training data to auto-generate highly targeted Q&A videos. We build profound trust by showing them our authentic, messy, behind-the-scenes workflow. And finally, we fed all of that granular performance data right back into our overarching strategy to optimize the very next idea we have.
It is a masterful, comprehensive ecosystem. And the core value for you as the creator, the marketer, or the founder listening right now is absolute leverage. Adopting the strategy saves you an incalculable amount of time and resources, but more importantly, it fundamentally positions you as highly adaptable.
You aren't just treading water anymore.
No, you are no longer just surviving the algorithm's relentless demand for content. You are strategically mastering it.
It is the ultimate definition of working smarter on a completely new automated scale. Which leaves me with this final, lingering question for you to ponder as you look at your own content calendar today.
Let's hear it.
If AI can now flawlessly automate the technical execution if it can seamlessly translate one single idea into 10 perfectly optimized, data-driven multimedia formats, does the true value of a modern creator shift entirely away from the hard skills of video production and purely into the absolute originality of that very first foundational thought?
That is the question we all need to answer.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.